to those values. I don't think she did it in a way that could broaden out to a general election, but clearly she's Vice President of the United States. She's been a U.S. Senator, right? She clearly has strengths. She's proven that in the past. I don't think she's done it in this regard. And I think some of her strengths, you know, particularly in areas that she should have been in, like in sitting in the Situation Room and knowing this, when Bret Baier asked her a week ago, what is the number one geopolitical threat to the United States? What is the United States' number one competitor on the world stage? And she instantaneously said Iran. And Bret Baier tried to help her. And he says, we know some people say China. Hint, hint. She says, oh, no, Iran. If you say that Iran is the number one, a regional power is the number one threat to the United States of America, given what the Chinese Communist Party, which is a mortal enemy, not the Chinese people and not the nation of China, but the Chinese Communist Party, a mortal enemy of the United States. If you sit there and want to be commander-in-chief and you say the number one threat when you have a chance to back off and say it's Iran, you're not ready to be commander-in-chief. And clearly you haven't learned anything or anything important in your 4 years as vice president sitting in the Situation Room. Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
Conservative TV station in Europe.
Yes.
I have a question regarding the European issues. The conservatives in Europe view Donald Trump's potential presidency as a whole. I would like to have your comment on that, and I would like you to emphasize on the role of the American polling voters.
Well, remember, you have conservatives, and then you have populists, and you have nationalists. I think the populist nationalist wing of those conservative parties, I don't think some of the classic conservatives, just like here in the United States, I think there's elements of the Republican Party that don't see President Trump as an answer. They vehemently disagree with us on tariffs. They vehemently disagree with us on things like the U.S. Steel takeover by Nippon Steel, things that a guy like Fetterman would back, right? So I think some of the classic conservatives don't see President Trump as somebody that represents a policy portfolio that would interest him. But I do think that the populists in those countries do, and I do think the populist nationalists specifically do.
Okay, so we've got time for about one more question. Okay, thank you. I'm so glad you're out. So speaking of the money of politics, New York City spends about
what organization?
Rights, Human Events.
Okay.
Okay, so speaking about the money of politics, New York City spends about $5 billion on illegal aliens. Do you think that was part of the reason why Madison Square Garden, which holds 19,500 seats, had over 200,000 people clamoring to get in, and New Yorkers decked out in MAGA gear? Do you think it's a swing state like Vivek Ramaswamy says in 2024?
I think that you saw that when President Trump went to the Bronx, right? Remember, the elites in this country, the reason there are 10 or 15 million illegal alien migrants or illegal alien here in the United States, the Federal Reserve said this. And now the Congressional Budget Office is saying it. That they had to break the back of inflation, they had to drive down. They focused on wage inflation. And where did they focus on wage inflation? They didn't focus on the investment bankers, and they didn't focus on the lawyers, and they didn't focus on the fat cats in Silicon Valley. They focused on unskilled labor here in the United States, and they were open about it. The Federal Reserve couldn't be more open about it. And that's what happened. Okay, number one. Number two, they tell you now, well, you can't possibly deport anybody, that the GDP has 1% growth because you have another 10 million consumers. The people that are being destroyed by the 10 to 15 million illegal alien migrants are the working class African Americans and Hispanics who are voting for Donald Trump. These people are very smart. And they see their lived experience every day, whether it's in New York City or throughout other major cities in this country and other states, that their lived experience is worse. And their lived experience is worse because of policies of the powerful, the wealthy, and the strong. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thanks. Appreciate you. No.
Thanks, everyone. If everybody could get moving ASAP, we need the room back.